Welcome to Accounting High.
I love this story because it's so similar to Nicole's. To Nick, she left the firm she was working at, and her parents tried to get her to stay because benefits and everything else. You need a good job, but now she's starting a fitness club, San Francisco area, so the Bay Area.
Cool.
The similarities.
That was I have a real deep passion for health and fitness, and work out every single day. I work out there 5-6 days a week. So
that's dope. Yeah, cool. Another PE teacher at Accounting High, another person at the PE, and one of the coaches here. This is dope. Let's get into it. Let's get into the first tip for making the varsity team here.
May I have your attention, please?
Welcome to Accounting High. It's freshman year at a brand new school. Here, we have no rules in place as we're on a mission to set our own traditions. So hang tight and learn with us as we grow. At Accounting High, you can expect to gain knowledge in a completely different way than what you may be used to, with some fun and oftentimes colorful conversations involving some of the best teachers in the accounting industry. Whether you loved high school or you hated it, here's your chance to be a part of an unforgettable experience redone. While you're here, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may be listening to us right now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And feel free to leave us a 5-star review letting us know how the school year is treating you. In addition, share this episode on social media, tagging us at Accounting High. So sit back, relax, and open your mind because class is in session.
I repeat, may I have your attention, please?
This is another public service announcement brought to you in part
by Accounting High.
The views and events expressed here are
of the next generation of accounting and tech professionals leading this space.
The events and suggestions are not to be taken lightly. Children should not partake in the listening
of this podcast.
Anything else?
Yeah. So without further ado, introducing the star of our show,
Scotty and Michelle Weinstein.
We're going to have a problem here.
We're coming to you from the Varsity Tip Center. We have Michelle Weinstein, the pitch queen, the abundant accountant. If our listeners have been paying attention, I have been mentioning you and referring to you and talking about you for months now. So to finally have you on is a treat.
Well, I am excited to be here. I love the intro. I love everything about this. And I am all about varsity tips because I think everyone here wants to be playing at the top of their game.
This is so cool that it came up in conversation yesterday as we were talking. And we're talking just about Accounting High, things like that. And then you said varsity, and you didn't even know we did varsity tips. So that's even
I had no
better.
idea.
Yeah. And for our listeners, just know that Nix isn't getting replaced. This isn't like another PE teacher that's taking over for Nix. Nix will be back. I just talked to Nix. She wishes everybody well. She's just getting she's handling her stuff at her firm. And now we have the pitch queen here. We've got, to set the stage a little bit, me and Nicole have been just talking, like Varsity Tips was Nick's tips. And we've been talking about better ways to run a firm. And it always centered around making more money. I mean, usually it's like profitability, pricing, presentation. I don't even know if we did presentation. We did processes.
I have that, the 3P process.
Ooh, what are your 3 Ps?
Present, price, package.
Wow. So we haven't done
or
packaging.
Actually, it goes the opposite way. Price right first, then you have to package it, and then you present last. So it's my 3P process that I have in one of my webinars. Yeah.
So process was one of them we did, but we didn't do 2 of your Ps. We got 1 out of your 3. And so but we've done productization, which is sort of like packaging. But what was the first one again? What was
You have to price right.
Yeah.
The right way, which first you have to get your varsity tips prior to even that, because we have to make sure your mindset's in the right spot before you can price, because there's so many firm owners who I've worked with that are pricing based on what their competitors are, or they'll call other firm owners in their area and then slightly price below that. And that's like the worst way to grow a firm. And then once you have your pricing correct, then you can package properly and then you present to the client in a certain way.
Presenting.
Yes.
So presenting, we haven't, like, I guess presentation is sort of the dressing and everything. And I love that. We will get into that, but we're going to write the prescription to get onto there's
Correct.
another P to get onto the varsity team. Like how does somebody make varsity, and how can they level up their firm? How can they level up their presentation and everything that goes behind that? So we've got you here, and we're going to lay out. That's what we're doing. This is the 4th semester at Accounting High, and we're starting it off with the pitch queen. So
Woo!
The rules, the tips, the ways to make the varsity team. That's this series. So for everybody that's been listening, now we actually have a legit way to make the team, and you don't have to stay on JV.
Yeah,
So.
no, you don't have to be on the freshman team. You don't have to stay in JV. This is how you can skip right to varsity.
Skip right to varsity without having your parents call in the school and pull strings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So cool.
Or pay
So-
your way, right? Those people that had to pay and make up pictures to get on the teams. And
Oh, that was sort of what I was referencing there. Like if the parents with money usually get there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they pay, and then the kids get the jerseys, and like they become the booster club, basically.
Yeah.
That parent becomes the booster club, and they're boosting the team. So you got to get my kid on there too, right? Like
Yep.
that goes without saying. Money will buy a lot of things in this world.
It sure
so
will.
speaking of booster club, this is not a booster club episode. I'm sure we've got a sponsor from our booster club, so we will play that if we needed to. But let's hear more about you, Michelle, the pitch queen, the abundant
Okay.
accountant, the woman of many names.
I do have a lot of names. Yeah, I prefer not to go by my name.
Okay.
I prefer the nickname, the Pitch Queen.
The Pitch
and,
Queen.
one of my older friends,
Pitch Please.
Pitch Please, came up with it. Even though I don't really, if you think about pitch, it's like hard sell or, I got to go pitch my product. I'm more about the art of science, like the sales science behind things and the art of enrollment. But the Pitch Queen was available on all social media at the time. So I took it, and that was back in 2017. And, I've been helping accounting, tax, bookkeeping firm, entrepreneurs, accounting professionals really learn how to sell high value services to their dream clients, but at the prices that they actually want. So they don't feel underpaid, underappreciated, feeling like a commodity, and how they can do this without feeling salesy, pushy, or nag at the same time. And every firm owner I've worked with has told me, Michelle, I actually love sales now. I love that part of the business. And I always share with many firm owners, it's like the part that's probably neglected the most, where we just kind of wing it. We just kind of go off the seat of our pants, but it's the most important number on your P&L. Because without revenue or without sales, you can't have anything else. So if we don't know how to enroll clients, and that's what we're going to talk about, some of the foundational tips to be on the varsity team of your firm, that's what I've done since 2017 now, 2018. And what we do is really, how do you have empowered sales conversations with your clients and own your value and own your worth, so you don't have to cave in. You don't have to discount your fees. You don't have to do some free work and say, oh, well, if I give them this tip for free, then maybe in the future they'll come on board with my firm at a premium price. And how do you confidently charge these higher rates so you can earn more, work less? Most of my clients take vacation during tax season and have that life of abundance that you probably have always desired. That's probably why you started a firm. And that's pretty much my mission. I'm about helping firm owners make money like doctors. And I have a unique proven sales system on how we do that here at The Abundant Accountant. And if you want to learn more, you can go to chargehigherfees.com. And that's how most firm owners end up adding to their base revenue. So whatever they were at before to where they're at now, most of them add anywhere from 10 to 50 grand in just an 8-week period. And most of them double or triple their base rates on whatever they were doing. And I'm talking like bookkeeping too, or planning, or advisory work, or consulting work, and even on their 1040 business. So that's what I do, and I love it.
How did you get that URL? What was it?
Chargehigherfees.com.
Yeah.
You can learn more there. Yeah.
How did you get that URL?
I went to GoDaddy.com and I bought it.
Okay. All right. It was available. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
It's a good URL.
Yeah,
Right.
I like
So,
it. And hopefully
earning
it's
more,
memorable.
working less. Yeah, no, it is. It is. Well, I didn't remember it, but I don't have a good memory. I remember it now. So earning more, working less. Some of the things I say a lot here is like free your time, open your mind, grow your bottom line, right?
Yep.
Free, like working less and making more, obviously, it should be an incentive for anybody to make that first step or to do something. What are some of the objections you get from people that are reluctant to work on this?
So working on it with me, Michelle, I don't have time. Oh, next month might be better, and a lot of my testimonials that you can see on my website, that's at theabundantaccount.com. They always say that there's never a good time in this industry. You always have a deadline. If it's not April, it's October or it's March or, there's always something. But if you can nip it in the butt right now and change the bad behaviors or the things that are driving you up a wall, I always say an investment of a few hours now will save you over the lifetime of your firm, 8, 10, 100% more time over the long haul. It's just you have to carve out the time, and there's never a good time. What other things do I hear? I've done a lot of other programs, Michelle. Why are you different? I've done a lot of training. I've watched a ton of webinars. I do a lot of CPE. Why is this different? And I'm like, oh, well, here are all my case studies. Feel free to take a gander and listen. And what other ones do I hear? I think those are probably the big one. Time and, and making a change is hard. It's scary. It's completely terrifying. Oh, this is the other big one. Well, Michelle, if I do what you tell me to do, I'm going to lose all my clients. I yet to have one client ever lose any clients. They always come back and say, I should have raised my fees more. I should have gone higher, but I was totally terrified. I'm like, it's okay. We have next year. We can always increase. But now I've given you that little golden nugget of confidence that now you have a process and it works. And now you just get to duplicate that again next year or whenever it is that they want to make the increase. Yeah. So it's really terrifying to think that you built this business or you bought it or got it from a family member. I have a lot of clients like that are inheriting a firm or they bought a firm, and there's a lot of low paying clients, and I'm completely terrified to increase the fees. Yeah. And those are my biggest success stories too.
So of course, yeah. So it's like we fear rejection too. And that's something that we will avoid at all costs. I think all humans have that. Yeah. That's just built in for us, our survival instinct. And we know that in our mind, maybe there's that one client that we probably would lose if we did all this, but there's every other client that are probably waiting to say, I was waiting for you to raise your fees.
Yeah, that's mostly the feedback. It's about time. And to be honest, most of your clients know they're getting a good deal and they're not going to say anything. It's up to you. Your clients need to be led and they need to be guided. And it's our job to do so. The problem is that we're so scared inside and we're so terrified and that we need that revenue. You have overhead, you have a staff to pay, you've got all these things lined up that if you make a change, you might go into the negative. And that's just a scarcity mindset. So we do a lot of shifts on the mindset and the beliefs that you currently have. And we're going to touch on them today a little bit. And we really dive deep because that's one of the biggest shifts. And I had a woman, I'm actually going to put this up as a testimonial ad on my retargeting. So if you go to the Pitch Queen Facebook page, you'll definitely see this testimonial come up in the next couple days. But she was sharing how she's done so many trainings over the last 40 years of her career. And this is the first one that she felt will actually create the differences and the changes she's always wanted in her firm. And she goes, well, maybe it was because of the monetary investment. I say you always get what you pay for. If you want results, you get to pay a premium. You get to invest in the best. And here at The Abundant Accountant, we only work with accounting, tax, and bookkeeping firm owners. We don't work with any other industry. So I know exactly everything that you've gone through. I've sold tax plans of 30, 40, 100 grand tax plans. I've sold bookkeeping services. I've sold advisory services. So if I can sell this, I can teach it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you get what you pay for. And you never hear anybody say they're good, but they were cheap.
No, there's no such thing.
Right. So it's something that they can turn around and say to their clients, obviously, too. You get what you pay for. Yeah. So if they are not charging high enough prices, then their work shouldn't even be that good quality either, too.
Exactly.
And it typically isn't, because that's when you get busier. That's when you hit capacity, when everybody's saying yes and your sales efforts seem effortless because everybody's saying yes. You should have, and maybe we'll get into this too, but your close rates, probably are going to go down in that case too.
Of course. Yeah. I had a gentleman the other day, Michelle, we get every client we ever talk to. We have a lead problem. Okay. A lot of you firm owners think we have a lead problem.
That's a confidence builder too.
And what's in the reality of it is that you have a conversion problem. If you are converting every client at 100%, you're not charging enough. You shouldn't be closing more than, 40 to 60%. You have to do some price elasticity and some other things in your firm, but it all starts with your mindset. There's no way I could help that client or that prospect out. He was set. He's like, I have a lead problem. I need more clients. I know I'm undercharging. I charge less than this. It sounds like, you have a great plan. It sounds like you have a great strategy. And I said, why did you book a call with me? Why do you need any help? Well, I know I could do better. Well, until you admit you have a problem, I can't help you. And sort of like what we were talking about yesterday, my whole thing, and with you and your firm, you want to look at it, and my boyfriend's an addict, so I can talk about him. I
can talk about being an addict because I'm an addict.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. So I said, I've noticed he is a sugar addict, which is actually worse than probably cocaine. At least that's what we've been told.
I think sugar and flour too.
Yeah. So his is sugar. I mean, it was to the point where you go to different 7-Elevens and get donuts and ice cream and all this because he was so embarrassed. So then he'd go to the next one down the street and the next one until he would stuff his face until he was so sick. And then one day he said, I am an addict. I need help. And he's part of a 12-step program now. It's a little bit harder to get sober off that because even a honey glazed salmon has sugar in it. Yeah, it's really
everything.
It's really difficult. He's in a difficult spot. But my point is until you admit to yourself that what you're doing in your firm isn't how you want it and you have a problem and that's why you need help, there's no one that can help you. So with that gentleman who's closing at 100%, I said, I wish you nothing but the best, but I can't help you because you think everything's great. And move right along. So that happens too. That's a form of an objection, but it's also a form of someone who I don't even want to work with.
I think it's somebody who's getting their ego in the way a little bit too.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pride is in the way. I'm good. Why would they even book a call? Obviously, that's
right.
So that's all right.
Yeah.
So
that's a little bit about me, the objections I hear, and yes, if you.
Well, you didn't tell me how you got into accounting and how you niched into accounting.
Okay, well, I can give you a little synopsis on that. I don't know how far back we want to go. But
we usually go as far back as high school on this show.
Yeah, that's true. High school. So I played basketball, ran track, and then went to college at the University of Arizona, got a degree in finance.
Oh, dope.
Yep. And then realized that I was a cocktail waitress and I made a lot of money. And then I got a job at Moss Adams as an analyst. So I'm sure a lot of people know that accounting firm. And I moseyed my way into the M&A group. So I was always working in the mergers and acquisition department. And I realized that the corporate gig really wasn't for me, and nor was the cubicle life. So I also got a part-time job at Nordstrom selling upscale women's clothes. And I realized that a lot of it was based on customer service. And it sparked the beginning of a sales process that I realized really works. And right after that, I also had a passion for health and fitness. So when I was in college, I was probably at the rec center all the time. And not only was I laying out, but I played like club lacrosse. I was at the gym doing cardio. And I started outdoor boot camps. So I took a job in Seattle at Moss Adams Corporate, was doing boot camps, was teaching spin classes at the gym during my lunch hour. And I realized that I could make way more money doing things on my own than being in this safe, secure job. And I couldn't stand being in a cubicle. I took the leap. I took a big leap. I decided to quit. So I quit my job as an analyst. And
that must have been hard.
Yeah, well, and my parents at the time obviously were very influential. You have great benefits. You have this, you have that. And I think I was only making like $35,000, $40,000 a year at the time. I have no idea. And I'm like, well, after I have to pay $500 or something for a parking spot in downtown Seattle, make the drive, sit in traffic. I'm like, this is just ridiculous compared to what I was making as a cocktail waitress. I was teaching all these fitness classes. I started a boot camp right there on Lake Union. I'm like, no, I'll figure this out on my own. And then
That's empowering.
yeah, I was really passionate about health and fitness, but then I love numbers. And I said, okay, well, what can I do like this financial analyst background, but like in sales? Because I know I'll make more money in sales.
Sure.
And I love to talk to people. Like being stuck in a cubicle was not my thing. I always found myself at lunches with all the partners of the firm, sitting there listening in. And so I got a job as a loan officer. And I started learning the mortgage business. And that's when really it all clicked together. And then I moved to California because I was so good. I was at the top 3% of the company that I was at in just 9 months out of like 900 loan officers. And they offered me this position to manage an office in San Diego. That's how I ended up in San Diego. And I was like, but they gave me the financials the first week. And I'm like, this company's not going to make it. I'm here. I'm an analyst, right? I have a degree in finance. I just spent 3 years.
What was it about the financials that you saw that you knew they were not going to make it?
Their sales quota and goal for me for that office was unattainable. There was no way, based on also the expenses, the payroll, and the staff you had to run with the salespeople. So I'm like, there's no way. So in California, in order to do mortgages on the side by yourself, you had to have your real estate license. So then I said, I'm getting my real estate license because I signed like a year agreement. They paid for my move, etc. And the day I went to quit, they let me go because I didn't meet the sales quota. I said, I'm glad we were on the same page. And then about 8 or 9 months later, that's when all the mortgage companies went under. So, yeah, I called it.
You got out the right time.
I did. But then that lifestyle kind of took a toll on my health. I was skipping the gym. I was living on fast food. I love the burrito shops in California. If you've never had one, they're delicious, but they're the worst thing. Yeah. So I was probably like, probably 15 pounds more than I was now. Not feeling good about it. And I saw a need for a market and I was like, all I want is a personal chef in a package. How come that doesn't exist? I don't like to cook. I don't want to grocery shop. I just want something healthy in a box that I could warm up, make eating healthy, easy, simple, and convenient. And there really wasn't anything that existed at the time. And this is like 2000. It's
before HelloFresh.
This is before HelloFresh. Yeah, there were very few competitors. This is before them. That's when I went out of business, is when Blue Apron got a $20 or $30 million
Well, you didn't tell me what the business was.
I know, I haven't gotten there yet. So I started this food company, and I got into food manufacturing.
Wow.
And hired a chef, and then say, okay, well, we'll make food for other people too. And that's when it was called Fitsy Foods. So I would say kind of what lacked in my experience, because I hated to cook. I only knew business. I only knew how to sell, and I knew business. Sure. I could read a financial statement and a balance sheet. But I'm like, dealing with a chef, that was really strong. That was probably the hardest part.
Dealing with people is hard, but a chef is entirely
creative.
Different,
Creative. Yeah. And now I have a boyfriend who's the creative. Yeah. So I got a lot of practice.
My parents and my wife and my family have to deal with me all the time. And I feel that. How do you deal with a creative? That's a great question. Maybe that's for a whole other day.
Yeah, but it's like varsity bonus tips.
But when you're exactly, those are the bonus after hours. So
anyway, I started Fitsy Foods and managing all these chefs and cooks, and a lot of them were only Spanish speaking. We ended up growing a couple retail stores. We shipped nationwide. I got into Vitamin Shop. We were in Costco. And I actually got to pitch in front of the ultimate panel of investors on Shark Tank. It was season 4.
Wow.
Yep, but I didn't get a deal. I actually got brutally rejected. It was very funny. And at the same time, that experience set me up for all these other wins like Costco and Vitamin Shop. And, I got Vitamin Shop to invest $1 million to do this test. And I thought that was like my ultimate home run. I'm like, they have 780 retail stores. They can start selling fresh food for me. Well, everything at Vitamin Shop sits on the shelf for years, and fresh food lasts like 3 days. They didn't know how to sell either. So it was very hard dealing with a big company. They got a new CEO in, and all the fun projects got canned. So working with major sports teams was one of our niches with that company. And the turnover in pro sports was so high that to create a good sales relationships with your clients, it wasn't conducive for that. So Fitsy Foods came to an end in March of 2017. And I was at a crossroads again. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I've got, the last 9 years of my life was in this food business. And prior to us closing, about 6 other competitors had went under when Plated and Blue Apron received $20-30 million investments. And I don't know if you remember this, but they were giving out weeks of free food as their Facebook ad.
Pretty much.
Like sign up for a week and then, you can choose to cancel your subscription. We couldn't compete with that. So
yeah, they were all marketing to me, and I almost signed up for one of them, but my wife's a great cook, so we didn't really.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah, but you basically you cook the meals that they give you, like you're still going
different.
through and cooking.
Yeah, all of these other companies were like me, where we prepared the meal, and all you have to do was reheat it on a skillet or stick it in the oven. This was like cook at home yourself. We're gonna measure out your recipes. We're gonna grocery shop, and we're gonna ship it to your house.
That's what those were. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a little different, but I always say like every failure has the stepping stone to a new adventure.
Ooh.
And so from there, I realized, every successful person has many failure stories to tell. And that was definitely one of my big ones, but it sparked this new idea. And I was like, okay, well, I couldn't make payroll many times in that company. We dealt with many different lawsuits. But I never gave up. So I'm like, okay, well, if I never gave up, well, what am I going to do? And I said, well, there's so many different paths you can go on. But if you kind of like we're talking about today, if you believe in yourself and you stay the game, well, then you can be on varsity. You don't have to be on freshman year. You don't have to be on JV. You don't have to sit the bench. You can actually be on the field. And so that's kind of when the Pitch Queen was born. I didn't have much time I think I went to Hawaii, cried for about 2 weeks, and then got my shit together. And I was like, okay, here we go. And it's really, in the beginning, I was helping entrepreneurs and business owners sell high-value programs. And so one of them was to accounting professionals to teach high-level tax planning. And so what I realized was that you can learn all the technical skills in the world. You can be a CPA, you can be a CFP, you can be an EA, you can be all 3 of them. You could keep getting more credentials and letters after your name. But if you can't enroll clients at premium fees, get paid your worth, and not give away the farm for free, then it's going to be really hard to grow a successful firm. And so I'm living proof that if you stay in the game, success is inevitable. And I was able to help a lot of firm owners also see that. And so that's what I do now every single day. I was helping sell for a friend's company. And from there, I had over 1,000 conversations with different firm owners and learned that you can have all the technical knowledge. But if you can't communicate, connect with your clients, and do your 3 Ps, price, package, and present the right way, it's going to be really hard to grow a firm to 6 and 7 figures and work part-time and not burn the candle at both ends and grind 14-hour days, be exhausted, never see your significant other, neglect your kids, and go, why am I doing this? I might as well just get a job. And that's where I see a lot of firm owners are. And it's a message I share with passion every day, and I love it. I love my weekly coaching calls with my clients. I even just started the Abundant Millionaire Mastermind program for my graduates. Yeah, it's on Thursdays, so now I get to coach twice a week, and I'm very excited about that.
Did you say graduates?
Yeah, I did. I said graduates. So my students go through what's called an 8-week sales mastery training, where they get the foundational steps and create their sales process. But anything to become a master, you have to have mastery in it. So sometimes it takes longer for people to become mastery. And mastery is built also with other like-minded firm owners. So that's where it's my next level of high-level accountability and coaching to get to $1 million a lot quicker than on your own.
God, I love that. Yeah. So at some point one day, we're going to have the AHA Accounting High Academy. That's going to probably be similar to like the Masters, or maybe Accounting U will be the Masters. I don't know. We're figuring all this stuff out as we go. But graduating, after your 4-year degree at Accounting High, graduate high school, you move on and go to Accounting U and then get your Masters. So that's a long journey. Yours is 8 weeks. That's dope. So that's a good program.
I mean, everyone in my program in 8 weeks unless they're like totally starting out from scratch. Everyone who's had a little firm on the side, if they've been in a job with a firm on the side, they usually quit their job within an 8 to 12 week period, even though they think they want to quit next year. To let go of that 2-week paycheck or the paycheck every 2 weeks. I know it's very difficult. But anyone with a firm that's already just either started and they have leads coming in, or they've been around for 20, 30 years, or they inherited a firm from a family member, they all are adding 10 to 50, 60 grand right off the bat in 8 weeks.
That's dope. So you got a lot of good alliteration as you were talking. You said communicate and connect.
Yep.
We were going to start doing C's also. We did a ton of P's. We did like 32 P words.
Wow.
We're going to start doing C's after that. So this is a good start. There.
Okay.
And your Millionaire Mastermind. So let's go back out. I love this story because it's so similar to Nicole's, to Nick's. She left the firm she was working at, and her parents tried to get her to stay because, you know, benefits and everything else. You need a good job. And now she's got a firm though. And she went a bit of a different path, but now she's starting a fitness club in San Francisco area. So the Bay Area. So that's kind of dope.
That's cool.
The similarities.
That was my old path. I work out at a really small fitness facility here, doing mostly weight training, and I've helped her and her husband with their financials and growing it. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a real deep passion for health and fitness and work out every single day. Not interested in that business model at all, but
well, that's how she started. Her niche at the firm was fitness and like specialty, but then she realized quickly, nope, like that's not going to work.
Yeah, no. I'm good.
Yeah, but you do it as a favor. It's good for you because you probably.
For me, I mean, I work out there 5-6 days a week, so
that's dope. Yeah, cool. So so that's also part of this. Another PE teacher at Accounting High, another person at the PE, and one of the coaches here. This is dope. Let's get into it. Let's get into the first tip for making the varsity team here.
So I would say the first tip, and I'm sure a lot of you might resonate with this, and it's the beliefs that you have around sales. So you have to really, and you can use the C word, check yourself. So you have to check your self beliefs, but you also have to check your sales beliefs. And they're a little bit different. So your sales beliefs could be like a belief is basically a certainty that something is true. So for example, why don't you tell me, Scott, what's a belief that you have around your sales for the firm before you kind of stepped out of it?
Ooh, good question. Belief that something is true. So what was about sales? Yeah,
so like a belief, they're either ideas, they're attitudes, they're what we think is possible. It's what we're capable of and what we deserve. But beliefs kind of act as this filter through which we view things and attach a meaning to it. So it could be like sales is hard, or sales I don't like because I'm always rejected. Or
so I get it. My beliefs. I've always been good at sales. I've always been like a salesperson at heart, and I've always been selling something my whole life. I've always been a hustler, always been selling. So I've always believed that if I am convinced in what I'm selling and I believe in it, then everybody else should, and there's no reason to say no. So
great.
I get very I'm very passionate about whatever I'm selling because it seems like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you? Basically.
Okay. Perfect.
That's one of my beliefs.
Belief, right? Yeah. Now, sometimes there's a limiting belief. So that would be a belief that narrows the range of choices, behaviors, or responses that maybe you would get from a client. So a limiting belief.
This is good. So this plays into, and I don't want to interrupt, but this plays into my belief in, if I believe in it, but if I ever have my own doubts on what I'm selling, I can't sell it to anybody because I don't believe in it. So once something cracks in that belief and it doesn't mix with, like, if something ever happened with Apple, like I use Apple as an example because I love Apple products. I love everything about Apple. I could sell them anybody to Apple, and everybody should be using Apple products and be in that bubble. I understand that it's not for everybody, but if Apple ever did anything to break that, it would shatter my entire worldview, belief system. And the same goes for anything that I would be selling. If I didn't believe in it at a certain point, then no. I basically create this limit on the entire thing, and I couldn't have anything to do with the whole thing. It's like, so that limit right there, I when you said limiting,
so another limiting belief a lot of firm owners have is like one I shared earlier is that if I increase my prices, I'll lose all my clients. Okay. All my clients will leave me. That is a limiting belief, because why it's crucial to be able to look at whatever the beliefs are, it's how you're looking through them. What is that lens that you're looking through them? And if you believe that that's true, then you're never going to be able to make these changes. So you've got beliefs, and then you've got some limiting beliefs. So some other limiting beliefs that might resonate with someone listening, or maybe even you've had, Scott, is selling is manipulative, sleazy, or pushy.
Yes. That's what a lot of people say all the time.
Great.
Like that's, yeah.
Or a firm owner might say, I'm not a natural salesperson. I'm not good at sales, or I'm not good at selling.
So that's what one of my guys, when I was transitioning him into sales, that's how he felt. And every time I was selling something, he would feel like that too. He would almost feel like that I was being that salesman.
Manipulative, pushy. Yeah. Okay, great. Another limiting belief that some people here might have is people only buy based on price, so I can't charge higher fees. Or another one could be, you know what? I'm lucky to have clients, so I can't be picky about who I work with. I have to take on everybody.
Yeah. Both of those are like, I'm firmly against both of those, and we talk about that a lot. Like that's, and this is a common belief though. But
these are the ones that sabotage you from changing your firm, from doing something different.
What about people being in denial of those? I think, you know what, do you ever get that too, where somebody thinks they don't think that way, but then their actions prove otherwise?
Totally. And those are the people I never help. Because you can't, until you're like, okay, I noticed it. This is limiting me, but I am also open to a change and seeing something different. Again, it goes back to being an addict. First, you have to admit that you're an addict. First, you have to admit you have some limiting beliefs that are holding you back. If you want to keep being held back, more power to you. No need to make a change. You just stay. Or, some people might also have this belief that I'm in the business to help people, not to make a fortune. So if I'm helping someone, I just want to answer all their questions. I'm a people pleaser.
I hear that all the time.
All the time, right? I'm a people pleaser. I'm supposed to help them. But let me share some truths, and I'd love your opinion on some truths about sales, just in general. Okay, sales is your first thing on your P&L, correct? Or it might say revenue. Selling to your clients is actually an honorable and moral imperative, because if they don't engage your firm, what's their alternative? They're going to go somewhere else. It's going to maybe not be done properly. I just had my coaching call yesterday with all my clients. They said they're sick to their stomach seeing some of the work they're getting from new clients from other firm owners that they were leaving because of the crappy work. Also, what about the truth about sales, that selling is a skill and it's an attitude that anyone can learn? And I've proven it with over 260 something firm owners that I've helped now on a small group basis. I've probably helped way more. I just don't know, because on my podcast, The Abundant Accountant, I've been told when I meet people in person, oh my God, Michelle, your podcast has helped me done this. Okay, great. But I only know about the people I know by first name.
And you don't pay attention to the numbers. So
I don't. I have no idea. I would
assume that you have a much bigger listener base than us. And, so that means that you're definitely touching more than 400 people, 500 people. Like you're reaching far and wide. You know this. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I am. But that's my pro bono work. That's like, hey, I'm here. We'll have Scott on the show soon. And that's just my way to give back to the people that I know I can't help in a smaller group setting. Because like I shared earlier, you can't be all things to all people. I can't help every single accounting firm owner out there. It's just not possible.
Well, for anybody considering this, I don't think it's free. I think it's also a lead funnel. I think a lot of firms could do things like this, where they start a podcast at their niche or their target market, their audience. When they identify it, then they have a podcast that is sort of like a hobby in some ways too. It's a great way to have conversations, meet people. It's a potential way to get clients too, I'm sure.
Totally. I mean, I get a lot of clients from them hearing the podcast, but typically they see my Facebook ad first. Then they go to my website, they see the podcast, listen to a couple episodes, and they're like, okay, so now you get to know me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's great, if you're going to invest in making some significant changes in your firm, that you do your due diligence on that person.
Sure.
So it's
sure.
another way to provide some due diligence along with, your social media and other things you do for your firm. But it's also a great way to provide knowledge. You're all smart, you're all intelligent. And that was one of the things when I closed Fitsy Foods. I said, I want to work with all really smart, intelligent people, very high level. And that's what I got. So I love what I do every single day.
Dope. Yeah, it's very rewarding and fulfilling too, because you're serving your purpose. Like after going through all your other phases.
Oh yeah.
Like your purpose, what you're passionate about, and you're able to do this now. Like
I've hired employees. I know how hard it is to find good help. I've got ways and ideas that are different than probably what you've learned. So I bring different elements to the table for sure.
Yeah. So
back to some of the truths
breaking
about
beliefs.
sales.
Breaking beliefs.
This is a huge one to really get your head wrapped around, because otherwise it's going to be very hard for you to get on varsity. You will still be in JV, and being on JV or being on freshman team for your whole 4-year high school time, it's very similar to you being in an accounting firm and doing the same amount of revenue every year. And then every tax season, you go to yourself, I'm not going to do that again. I cannot have another year like I just had. And if you have any of those thoughts, that's because you're not willing to look at these truths about your current sales beliefs, your self-beliefs, and committing to making a change and admitting that you have a problem. And there's so many firm owners, Scott, that I meet. They're like, yesterday I have another testimonial ad that's going to be going up. Tommy, he goes right out the gate, I wish I would have done this a lot sooner. I'm like, yeah, I pretty much hear that from every single person. And it's just because we get in our own way, and you have so much work in front.
Own way.
Yeah, you get in your own way, and there's so much work in front of you every day. And then you're exhausted and you're depleted, and you just do it again. And you're fueling yourself off coffee. Your health is taking a toll. You're not putting yourself first. And when we do that, it's really easy to just stay doing what you're doing. But a scarcity mindset will never give you the success you want. And that I can promise you is very true. And to be honest, too, as a firm owner, you should be compensated in direct proportion to the amount of service and value that you provide to a client. And there's
how do you determine that value?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother conversation. So we're going to talk just about the beliefs today, because otherwise we can't really determine our value if we still think that all those other things are true. It wouldn't make sense. We'd have a clashing department.
I'm just a student back here.
I know.
You could tell me to put my hand down.
Yeah, put your hand down, Scott. But in reality, and other people have proven it for you, that you could possibly love selling. And then, I can show you why. So when you're selling, and think about this, Scott, when you were in your firm before you stepped aside, selling is really just a skill set to discover what someone needs and wants are, and to skillfully guide them through a decision-making process. An analogy I like to use is, have you ever been to like a museum in another country with a guide and they take you down a tour? Like around the
Not
museum?
yet, but I will be when I go to Italy for Expensicon.
Okay, perfect. So when you go to Italy, go to a museum, you can hire a guide. They take you through the guide, and they're just showing you around. And then at the end, there's a gift shop, and you can choose to purchase things if you want or not. We are no different than guiding our clients down a process through the museum of whatever. We could just say the Louvre in Paris. You hired the guide, they showed you around, and at the end, you're at the gift shop, and it's your choice and your decision-making process. Do you want to buy a souvenir to take home to remember that? And they're making it a memorable experience. And this is very similar in selling, because you really are never selling your services. All we're doing is helping people make decisions and have good feelings about those decisions. That's it. So if I share with you that that's what sales is, Scott, what do you think about that?
You just got me thinking about guides now. I'm thinking that we have our guideposts and we have our guides that are guiding us through. And when I say guides and guideposts, those are episodes that we also have another series here. But when I think of that, us as a guide, like being the guide for our clients.
Correct.
we are helping them. And that reinforces the whole belief that I just want to help my clients. So you can attach some of those beliefs that we want to break and some of those that we want to expand on. You are going to help your clients, and this is how, but you are going to get paid to do it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the belief right there, is like, not just, well, I guess the other thing I think of too. It's
not really selling, though. What I want you to really take away from this is that when someone makes a decision to buy something, they're making a decision. It's a feeling about a decision. It's building that know, like, and trust factor with a client. But ultimately, there's nothing to sell. We're only guiding them to make a decision that they feel good about.
And then it's their decision to make.
It's their decision. We're not pushing
Yeah.
them. You have a 50-50 chance, though, that if you ask for the decision, do you want to work with my firm or not, you have a 50-50 chance to say yes or no. Ultimately, they get to decide. It's our job, though, to guide them down that path. And that is the art of selling. That's the science of selling that one of my clients shared with me. Because they're not buying a service. All they're buying is the solution to a problem. We're going to show them their problem. We're going to have them make a decision that they feel good about. They can either change it or not. And that's, at the end of the day, when the revenue hits the bank account, which equals sales. It's just selling's got such a bad reputation because, you bought a car and it was a horrible experience, or you've been down the mall and they try to give you everything in the middle of the mall, right? So when you have clients or you have prospects and you help them solve big problems, you also get a big benefit in return. And that's a nice high premium paying client.
Yeah. I love that. The art and science.
So the art and science of selling.
Definitely two separate classes. Two separate classes you're blending together. And I don't usually hear, because usually some people say there's an art to this. It's not a science. So
there's an art and a science. But one of my clients said, Michelle taught me the science of selling, because there is a science that goes, it's psychology, which is more of science-based. And I'm not a psychologist, but once you see things that work, you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to repeat that. And I know patterns. Yeah. And firm owners and accountants, you guys like systems and step-by-step processes. And that's all I do. But we're just creating that guide as if we were in the Louvre of Paris and hired the guide. And all we're doing throughout the whole process is helping people make a decision, which is the end goal, that they feel good about. They have to feel good about the decision to hire you.
Yeah, so they have to own that decision. And then that creates an entirely different relationship on the onset, because then they don't feel like they were convinced.
They weren't convinced. Yeah.
You don't have to prove yourself to them every week.
That C word should not be in accounting high. Convincing is the worst word. It's like the 4-letter word. Like, you do not want that word. We don't convince anybody. We don't sell anybody.
That's like the other 4-letter C word that we're not going to refer to either. Yeah,
exactly. So ultimately, if you believe in yourself to give a good tour, and you believe that there is a possibility to have a happy life, and that you don't have to work 14-hour days, and that you can take vacations and spend time with your family, then you can have this thriving, abundant firm that you probably have always dreamt of, with a lot of revenue and a lot of profitability. But really, until you can see that for yourself, no one else can believe that until you see it first.
Oof, this is good stuff, because I also don't have a way to convince my team how to sell, because I can't put that stuff into words.
Them. You can't convince them.
It's not just that. I'm never going to convince them. I know this. I know you can't really convince somebody of anything. You can show them the way, and then in turn, they eventually figure it out, or they don't. But people can get in their own way too. But if you can show somebody the way, guide them, and I'm talking about this for me, for my team, which I think a lot of other accountants are in that position where they're happy with the way things are, but they're not pulling in a lot of new business because they don't want to have to convince anybody of anything.
Right. And that's just another belief. But if you think about Varsity, you have your head coach. Your head coach is guiding the people on the, if you're a basketball, there's 5 people on the court. The head coach is guiding them through decision-making processes. Do you want to take that 3-point shot? Do you want to pass the ball? Do you want to give it to the point guard? Do you want to give it to the front person? Like, all those are decision-making processes, and all the coach is doing is guiding them, aka selling them, on what's the best idea for them to win the game.
So I need to be the head coach for my
Correct. You
firm.
need to be the head coach. And it all stems from some of these beliefs. Because if you believe that you as a firm are worthy of everything that you guys want as a firm, then you'll naturally find yourself charging what you're worth. Your team will do that, and so on. So the head coach is about guiding the team through this process the same way. It's not any different than us guiding our clients. And a lot of
It's
people
about
too,
belief.
It's about
not
belief.
Convinced.
It's correct.
You have to
it's about
believe and have
belief.
faith.
Have
in,
faith,
in
yes.
that.
It's the weirdest thing. A lot of people get it wrong. Like, I got to convince my person at the work to do this, or I got to
It's not confidence,
It's not.
and it's not convincing people. It's
No.
faith and it's belief.
Right, because if you believe it, it guides the others to follow suit.
Well, confidence. Sometimes people. The reason I bring up confidence is because sometimes people believe if you're really confident in what you're doing, then it's going to work out. But if you don't necessarily believe in what you're doing and you're confident about it, that shows eventually too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, having confidence without having faith or belief,
Yeah.
you're not gonna. Yeah. So changing the beliefs is getting to the root, or to getting
Changing
to the
the
core.
beliefs is the core of everything. So if you're not getting results from your team, it's probably stems from the beliefs. But I think a lot of us hold back as well by, let's just say a firm owner charging for that expertise that you're really great at it, just because of the fear of seeming salesy or pushy, or you had to convince somebody. But it's really not selfish for you to, charge a client who really needs your help.
No, none of that's selfish, and that's another belief that
It's
people
just
may
another
have too.
belief.
Yeah.
So
We get in our own ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think we're doing the best. Like sometimes it's with the best of intentions
yeah.
that we get in our own way, but that's what they say about the best of intentions. So,
Yeah. So let me give you an example on how you can shift a belief. Okay.
okay.
So there's the good old saying called be, do, have. So you get to choose who you want to be, and then you need to do that in order to do what you want to do. And then at the end of that, you'll have what you have. So when I first started out in 2017, I can't tell you, Scott, how many people tell me it was a stupid idea to start a podcast. So my first podcast was called Success Unfiltered. And I said, I'm going to share people's success story through an unfiltered lens about the real stuff that they have to deal with all the time. Like,
and
the
ironically, you're talking through a pop filter right now.
I am talking through a pop filter right now. Exactly. But how did entrepreneurs like Justin from Justin's Peanut Butter make it? And what are the struggles he had to go with? Or other companies that had to close their door that were willing to be honest about it.
Sure.
So I said, okay, well, who do I need to be in order to do those things that I need to do and have a successful podcast? Because everyone around me was like, you don't know how to interview people. You don't know this. You don't know that.
Well, that's what you were listening to. That's what you were paying attention to. I'm sure there were some people that were saying you're doing good, but you weren't paying attention to them.
Well, most of it was pretty negative.
Okay.
So the negative could be from outside, or it could be your beliefs on the inside. I'm not good enough. No one will pay me that much. My clients will leave me if I charge more. All those are the same thing. So I said, okay, well, who do I need to be? And at the time, a friend or colleague of mine now, or whatever you want to call him, John Lee Dumas, had a very successful podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire. I said, I just need to be John Lee Dumas. When I do my podcast, I'm going to
you know him?
Yeah. He was a client of mine.
He's very successful. His podcast is amazing. Like that's he talks about their numbers too, and that was big inspiration for me as I started doing this. I was like, oh wow, damn, you could do that with a podcast?
Yes, I think I did an interview with him on his show in like 2017.
Oh, dope.
He was a client of mine at Fitsy Foods. We would actually ship him and his wife now food to Puerto Rico when they moved there, and he lived in San Diego. But I said, who do I need to be in order to have a successful podcast? And I said, I need to be John Lee Dumas, because hearing the outside stuff, getting Michelle down, isn't going to work. So I said, okay, when I do an interview, I'm going to put my John Lee Dumas cap on. I'm going to do the podcast as if I'm John Lee Dumas, and I'm going to get in that mindset. I'm going to listen to an episode of his. I'm going to remove all the outside chaos and the chatter in your head, and then I will have a successful podcast. So I said, that was who I had to be in order to get what I wanted. And then I started this podcast in 2018. I stopped the other one after a few years. I had tons of sponsors, and I said I stopped it because I niched to only working with accounting, tax, and bookkeeping firm owners, and there was no point in doing two. That was a lot of work.
You evolved.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to go, like, where are the ways that are having, that you feel like you're having to chase success, or what are the thoughts that shift you to lead to the best outcome? So mine in that example, my B was John Lee Dumas. Do was do a podcast at that energy level. And then my have was a successful podcast. So who do you have to be to do the required things on a daily basis? If it's for you, Scott, lead your team so they excel and bring a new business. So you have a successful firm where you're not a part of it in the day-to-day. So that would be an example of be, do, have. And that's probably the biggest way to shift some of your self-beliefs, because you have to choose to believe maybe that you're good enough. Then you have to choose to believe that you're capable enough. Then you have to choose to believe that you're worthy of what you want. And then you have to be this different person, this different persona. I don't know who that is for you, but there's got to be someone. And that is the power of what you believe and how you can shift your mindset really, really quick.
I love that. There's touches on so many things right there. So the belief, it's almost like part of it's almost like faking it till you make it. Like you're putting on that cap, or you're also convincing yourself.
But you're not faking anything. You're basically
not faking anything.
Yeah, you're not faking it till you make it, because I don't really believe in that. I think we should all show up as our authentic ourselves and everything else. But sometimes you just have to get out of your own way, like we were talking about earlier. You're like, there's just some beliefs that you have from your childhood. There's so much baggage that everyone's carrying around every day, that if you're like, hey, I want to have $1 million firm, but you have this belief that you don't deserve any money, you're going to have clashes all the time. You might need to be like, hey, I'm Damon John from Shark Tank, and I have to be Damon in order to do the things Damon would do when he's meeting with clients to have a successful firm, because he didn't have a lot of money. He just hustled and worked, So there's something or somebody you need to choose who you want to be to shift the mindset. Because
so
when
I think
go ahead.
So I think the faking it is convincing your ego, your conscience, your convincing yourself and faking it to yourself that you are somebody else. So then you actually believe it until you actually believe it. Not necessarily like faking it like in the wrong sense, but more so tricking yourself. And those are techniques that I've done all throughout my whole journey.
Tricking yourself.
You've got to trick yourself, and you got to trick your subconscious and let it think those certain things so you don't get the negative self-talk. It's almost like it's a tool that you can have in your kit that like, what would this, and it's also like, what would this person do? And so having a mentor or having somebody that you look up to, that you've learned, somebody that you can look to as a guide, right?
Yeah.
In your life of where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, you see their journey, you see what they did.
Yep.
So then you look to them for that, like, what would this person do in this situation?
Because you need to leave your personal situation on the back burner. Whatever's going on in there, it's not going to take you to where you want to go. Because if it was, you would have already maybe done it.
You'd already be there.
Yeah, you'd already be there. So we actually have to detach ourselves from the outcome and just focus on the process. And when we be this other person and we do the things that person would do, so maybe it's like you're not going to watch TV and you're not going to do all these things, and you're going to go get a massage and put your workouts first and put yourself first, which most firm owners I've met never do that until they come and work with me, because I'm like, that's number one. That's how we shift this process. So when you get your sales beliefs in line and then you have your self beliefs in alignment, that will bring you to a complete understanding that selling has nothing to do with you.
What a perfect, it sounds like you've done this before. So
just a few times.
The beliefs. So when I said breaking beliefs, I was actually referring to Amy Vetter's podcast and her platform. And she talks about that, and but a lot of it is mindset, and also James Ashford, who we talked about.
Yeah.
And I'll be seeing him in a couple weeks too. So I'll mention you when I see him. So like changing your mindset around certain things in theory sounds great, but practically
Doing
these are
it
the steps.
is the different. Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's really not easy, because you can convince yourself this is where you want to be or who you want to be, but then your mind takes over again, and then you get back into thought patterns that are negative, and you get back into old ways of thinking without even knowing it. So you have to constantly remind yourself. So there's got to be tools and techniques and ways to check in, and having an accountability person or having a coach or having somebody to help you do that is a way to get out of your own way.
Yeah. Yep.
That's dope.
100%. So when you think about all these reasons, like I was sharing, selling has nothing to do with you. A lot of us don't put ourselves out there, or we don't want to get rejected. But at the end of the day, none of this process has anything to do with you. We just guide the clients down a path to make a decision that they feel good about. If they feel good about it, they're going to want to work with you. If they don't, they just won't. But it has nothing to do with you. So we never want to let the no or the rejection slow us down, because that's another belief that can get in our way from getting us to where we want to go. So when you detach from that outcome, then we can believe in ourselves even more, especially when you do the be, do, have, and you're doing the things that that person would do. We can believe in our solution to the client's problem at even a greater level. And then we're always putting that prospect or client's needs first in the sales process, because all we're doing is guiding them down a path to make a decision that they feel good about. And that's in a mindset of abundance versus the scarcity stuff.
It's not about you. And that's the whole thing to drive as well. It is about you when it comes to the whole self-care, taking care of yourself. That's when it's about you. But when you're doing something, the outcome is not. Yeah. So that sums up our self-beliefs, sales beliefs, and detaching from the outcome. And the only way you can be there, I'm just still going on with that. The only way you can be there for somebody else is by putting your mask on first. Yeah, so it's just like an airplane. You're flying on a plane. They do the whole spiel with the seatbelt and put your mask on first before you put your kids on, because you can't help anyone until you help yourself first. That's a whole nother topic that I believe, I'm sure Nicole speaks a lot about that, considering she's opening up a gym. But it's the first thing we let go, especially like all the people during tax season. I didn't make it to the gym. I woke up in the morning. I went to my desk. I drank coffee. You're over-caffeinated. You're working. You maybe will eat some bad food, and then you'll go back to work, and then you'll come home for a little while, kiss your kids goodnight, don't spend any time with them, and then you'll go back to your desk at your house if you go to a brick-and-mortar office, and then you're going to work till 9, 10, 11 at night, and then you're going to wake up at 4 or 5 and do it all over again. That is no way for success, and that's not the life I think anyone wants to live. No, and it sounds like you maybe listened to one of her episodes too, because I didn't. Episode on PE. So one of the P's we did was PE, physical education, and that was sort of the basically all the tips. And then we went into also like the sex ed part of it too, and how like if you do take care of yourself, then everything else starts to work out too. Yeah. But that's a whole part of the self-care and showing up and being your best self, so you can take care of everybody else. Yep. And super dope. So let's wrap up part 1 of this class to make it on Varsity team. This was dope. Thank you, Michelle, the pitch queen. Thank you for having me. The abundant accountant. Can you save the story for how you became the abundant accountant for the next episode? And we'll do a ... to be continued. Sure. Thanks. Appreciate you.